Okay, now on to the good stuff. I have the privilege of introducing Tom Werner. And I'm delighted to do so. He's got a long bio and far too many accomplishments to mention here, but they really fall into three categories. One's sports, one's entertainment, and the third one's philanthropy. Thomas C. Werner has been the chairman of the 2013 American League Division-winning Boston Red Sox, and they have been, he's done that for the last 11 years, and is also chairman of the Liverpool Football Club since 2010. During his tenure with the Red Sox, the club has enjoyed unprecedented success, having won over 1,000 games, including 2 world championships. Only 2 clubs in all of Major League Baseball have won over 1,000 games in that time frame. One being the Red Sox, and another being a large market team that ended 5th in the American League wild card race this season. Werner also has a storied career in television. He and his partner, Marcy Carsey, helped create such popular programs as The Cosby Show, Roseanne, That 70s Show, among others. Before starting Carsey Werner, credited with almost 2,000 hours of quality television, the duo was working for ABC Television when they discovered this guy, Robin Williams, in a comedy club, and launched his career with Mork and Mindy. Werner is a member of the Television Academy Hall of Fame and has received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Producers Guild of America. A resident of Los Angeles, Werner currently serves on the Crossroads School Board and the Board for After School All-Stars, a program helping more than 92,000 at-risk youth engage in after-school activities. Please welcome Tom Werner to the stage.
Thank you, Mark. I want to also thank the Tomets family for sponsoring this series. I'd like to thank Father Ron for his introduction. I liked it a lot. I would have loved it if he'd prayed for the Boston Red Sox. I was sitting near John Hammond, who's the general manager of the Bucks. He was hoping that Father Ron would pray for the Bucks, but I have a great, I'm delighted to be here. I have long connections to Milwaukee. My son Teddy, who's here, works for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he and his wife Karn, who's sitting next to Teddy. Karn is an adjunct professor at the law school at Marquette. So I have a great feeling of affection. I took my grandchildren to the university school this morning, so I feel very much part of this community. I was talking to Mark a little bit about the last 2 commencement speakers at the graduations. The 2 years ago, Henry Aaron was the graduation speaker, and Mark was telling me this story that Henry, when he came here in 1954, was living at the Schrader Hotel, and he would walk every day to County Stadium because he couldn't afford a car. And I said to Mark, I long for those days when owners were so cheap that players couldn't afford cars. And last year, my good friend Bill Cosby was the commencement speaker at Marquette. And Bill, I once asked Bill if he would be interested in investing in a baseball team with me, and in that wise and funny way he has about him, he said, you know, here's my problem about buying a sports club, is that people are always going to give you advice telling you what you should do with your money. And if you listen to them, it won't be your money for very long. Anyway, I'm just going to talk for a few minutes today about 2 things that I feel strongly about. One is my enduring respect for the audience, or as it relates to sports, my enduring respect for the fans. And the other is that in my careers, I've sort of come to the point of view that I feel that leaders must embrace change and even be disruptive, because consumers have so many options these days that unless you are an innovator, I think that you fall behind. My respect for the audience started, my own career started after college. I worked at ABC TV. My first job was a $100 a week research analyst, and at the time, it was the early 70s, ABC was doing so badly that there was a comment that if they only put the Vietnam War on ABC, it would be over in 13 weeks. I mean, every one of our series was actually last in its time period, and at the time, I don't know if some of you will remember this, that Patty Hearst was on the run, and there were maybe 500 FBI agents looking for her around the country. And I said that, you know, if they only looked at our show Sunday at 8, they'd see her because she was starring in one of our shows. Nobody was watching. But what was great about that experience was that I worked for an organization in which the only way we could move forward was to innovate. So I was writing memos, and I finally got someone to give me an opportunity to go into the programming department. And a group of us put together some shows that started with Barney Miller and Taxi and Three's Company and Happy Days. And as Mark said, I went to a comedy club and put Robin Williams in Mork and Mindy. I saw this stand-up comedian from Cleveland, and his name was Tom Hanks, and I put him in a show called Bosom Buddies. So we were really, we were just had the wind at our back, and I decided to do something contrarian. I left that job with a big corner office to start an independent production company over a sneaker store. But that decision led me to pitch a show to Bill Cosby, which ended up being The Cosby Show. And then after that, I did A Different World, which I was very proud of. It was a companion piece of The Cosby Show about life in a black college. And then I did Roseanne. And it was just great, but I really felt like I'm so good at what I'm doing, why don't I do something really contrarian? And I ended up buying a baseball team in San Diego, and that was a disaster. I didn't realize at the time that there was this huge chasm that was beginning to emerge between small markets and big markets, and without a salary cap or substantial revenue sharing, it was a real challenge being competitive in San Diego. But I knew I had sort of swallowed off more than I could chew. The very first day I owned the Padres, I was talking to our star first baseman, and I was just trying to make nice conversation with him, and I said, "So when's your birthday?" And he said, "April 12th. And I said, "Oh, what year?" And he looked at me and said, "Every year." So I was entering this kind of twilight zone. And it was shortly after that that I invited Roseanne to sing the national anthem. And I think in the history of people singing the national anthem, that may make the list of the worst 5. So I was so vilified. There was a guy who would stand outside Jack Murphy Stadium with a sign. And the sign said, "Honk if you hate Werner." And every time I'd drive in, I'd honk because I didn't want anyone to recognize me. But that experience actually turned out to be enormously valuable. I actually became quite friendly with Commissioner Selig, who owned the Milwaukee Brewers at the time, and we were trying to improve the game, and I was appointed to be head of the Major League Baseball Television Committee, and in that role, I made a strong recommendation that we would expand the number of playoff teams from 4 to 8. And that actually created the wild card, which was the format that later led the Red Sox to becoming the World Series champion in 2004. So it was interesting. It was interesting in San Diego. There was a player who was our relief pitcher. His name is Randy Myers, and things were going so bad. One day he said to me, "You know, Tom, I hear there are 300 people protesting in front of your house." And things were bad, but they weren't that bad. And I said, "Randy, what are you talking about?" He said, "Well, don't you have something to do with Ice-T?" Now, Ice-T was a rap performer who had sung a number of songs that had very offensive lyrics. And I said, I don't have anything to do with iced tea. And then I said, oh no, Randy, that's Time Warner, and I'm Tom Werner. So, so then I sold the Padres, thought I'd never look back, and the commissioner called me up in 2002 and said that the Red Sox were for sale and that I should look at it. And a bunch of us, I had a great excitement about coming back into baseball because the Red Sox hadn't won a World Series in 84 years. I felt that this was a great challenge. And as Mark said, it's been a fantastic ride. We've not only won 2 World Series, but we've won 90 games 8 times. And it was especially satisfying this year because last year we finished last in our division, and we were roundly vilified in Boston. But we made some decisions that I think were instructive. In the middle of last year, we decided that we needed to really figure out a way to get out of the hole, and we needed to make some changes. And one of the first things that we did is we made this trade with the Los Angeles Dodgers last August. I don't know if you would know it if you were baseball fans, but we traded 3 all-star players, Josh Beckett, Adrian Gonzalez, and Carl Crawford, but in doing so, we shed $250 million of payroll, which gave us enormous flexibility going forward. And then we went about redeploying the money. We didn't just save it. We ended up building a team this year around gritty baseball players who really wanted to play in Boston. We made no long-term contracts like to a Justin Verlander or a Prince Fielder. I think that the longest-term contract we made was 3 years, and most of the contracts were 2 years and 1 year. But if you follow baseball, we just assembled a group of really great guys, Dempster, Uehara, Stephen Drew, Johnny Gomes, Mike Karp, Shane Victorino, Mike Napoli, and they all really contributed to our having the best record this year. But it was interesting. We went to camp in February. There was a piece in ESPN magazine. They had something like 45 different baseball analysts who predicted how the Red Sox would do in 2013, and 38 of the 45 picked us to finish 5th, and the other 8 picked us to finish 4th. So I know what it's like to be considered bright. I know what it's like to be considered a bum. I kind of like, I like best Michael Werner, who was head of the baseball union, was asked last year which 1 or 2 owners he'd choose to be stuck with on a desert island. And he was complimentary enough to mention me, and he said Tom, because he's responsible for having created all those wonderful television shows that and all that great entertainment. And I wrote Michael back saying that the best part of it was I got to spend 8 years of my life with Mila Kunis, so that was a great. But sadly for me, they were on a television stage, and so we, as a group, felt that we wanted to take on some more challenges, and so 3 years ago, we acquired the Liverpool Football Club and became part of another dynamic sport. For those of you who know a little bit about soccer, because it's now moved from Fox to NBC, and it's a remarkable global sport. Just as a piece of comparison, something like 250,000 homes would watch a regular Red Sox game. Something like 110 million viewers watched the Super Bowl last year, and the Liverpool-Man U match that was on 4 weeks ago was seen by 800 million people around the world. So it's quite an exciting, dynamic sport. A number of Americans actually own sports franchises in the Premier League. The Glazers, who own Tampa, own Manchester United. Shahid Khan, who owns Jacksonville Jaguars, owns Fulham. There's Randy Lerner, who used to own the Cleveland Browns, owns Aston Villa. Stan Kroenke, who owns the St. Louis Rams, owns Arsenal. So I somewhat feel at home in English football, although we also were owned by the Chelsea Football Club is owned by Russian oligarchs, so it's not all Americans. But one of the things that, in terms of what I've learned about all this, and I'm speaking here at the business school, is that in sports it really is a virtuous circle, that the stronger you are on the baseball diamond or on the pitch, the more revenues you garner, and the more revenues you garner, the stronger you can be on the pitch. It's a virtuous circle. And some people feel that focusing on revenues is kind of a dirty word. I feel very much that I'm very proud of the fact that when we came into Boston, which after all is not a particularly big market, I think we're in the 25th largest market in terms of television households. We were, I think, 13th in terms of revenue, and we moved up to 2. We were 10th, I think, in terms of sponsorships, and we've moved up to 2. So all of this has really driven our business to a stronger plateau. And we didn't simply invest the money into players. We also invested it into Fenway Park. I think part of our legacy when we pass this stewardship on to the next group is that we have retained and refurbished Fenway Park. When we first came to Boston in 2002, I would say if you were at a luncheon gathering like this and asked the group, would you want to move to a new park and tear down Fenway Park or keep Fenway Park? I'd say more than half said, well, let's build a new ballpark by the water. But we tried to figure out maybe there's a way to keep what's great about Fenway Park and spend some money and really refurbish it. And I think now if you go there, I think it's a cathedral of sorts. Very proud of the fact that we had our 100th anniversary there, and it's, for those of you who haven't been, it's a really special experience to go to Fenway Park. So going back to football, some people who are curious about the economics, that one of the great things about a football club versus a baseball club is a football club, you have the opportunity to exploit your merchandising rights. In baseball, it's collectively pooled, so that a Red Sox hat, we would only get 1/30th of the revenue. But in football, and I think if you watch one of these matches, we sell our naming rights on our shirt. If you see a Liverpool match, there's a global bank, Standard Chartered, and they'll pay us 25 million pounds a year for their name on our shirt. And we also, our merchandising, as I said, is owned by us. We made a deal with Warrior, which is a subsidiary of New Balance, to manufacture our shirts and Liverpool gear, and they pay us 20 million pounds a year for that. So the economics of it are stunning. But I think that, Mark asked me sort of, what is the general theme? And the theme for me is always to try to stay ahead of the game. I was reading last week, I'm sure some of you saw that BlackBerry was sold to a private investment group, but BlackBerry had a 40% market share 4 years ago, and today they've got a 4% market share. So I use that as an example because things are moving so quickly, and we are not only competing with people who might be wanting to watch an NFL game or another sporting contest, but people who are also interested in other things they're doing with their leisure activity. One of the things that I think is good that is true about sports, and it's why sports rights have escalated, is that in this world, which really most of these sporting events are really made for television, 97% of the audience watches a sporting game or match live, which is very different from how you all now are watching your entertainment programs. And so many now of the entertainment programs are being time shifted so that you can watch Breaking Bad or American Idol on your own time, and therefore the audience is fast forwarding through commercials. So it's really one of the great advantages that we have in sports, but we have to continually try to figure out, well, how do we improve our product? I feel, for example, that baseball is in need of a faster format, that the average game now is 3 or 3.5 hours. The average Yankee game against the Red Sox is as much as 4 hours. And in this time where people are so mindful of how they use their time, baseball needs to figure out a way to speed the game up. And there are things that I'm especially bothered by. I think that the idea of a relief pitcher coming in and throwing 8 pitches before he pitches a real pitch. I mean, imagine a field goal kicker coming in and taking 2 practice field goals before he actually does something. So why do we have to have a pitching change after the manager goes to the mound? Why can't we, as soon as he leaves the dugout, why can't we get the pitcher in? So there are things to be done, and I think there are things to be done in baseball to improve the access of the game. I feel that's a traditional game, and players are all too often unwilling to sign autographs or connect with their fans. And then I watch an NBA game, and I see that you've got players talking to the audience in the middle of the game, and you've got cameras filming the filming the coach as he's talking about the next play. So baseball needs to take heed of the fact that there are things that we can do to not just improve the speed of the game, but the format. I'm going to just, I'm happy to talk about, answer any of your questions, but I guess I just want to say that what's exciting to me in the various endeavors that I've been in is that I've been aware that it's a brave new world. I was saying to Teddy last night, I saw this commercial that Dunkin' Donuts did in the third quarter of Monday Night Football the last 2 weeks that I just was so energized by. What they do is they pick the best play of the first half, and then they animate it to stop motion, where instead of it being Washington versus San Francisco, it's cafe latte versus iced coffee. And they have it on a little miniature field that looks like 100 yards with straws as the goalposts. And anybody who watches that says, oh my gosh, this is really fun. I remember that play, and this is a clever reaction to that play. So I'm always looking for, what's new and what's fresh and what could be captivating to our audience. So I'm going to sort of end by just saying that I'm much more comfortable behind the camera than I am in front of it. There's a quote that I have on my desk that Mark Twain said, and he said, it's better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you're a fool than open it and remove all doubt. So with that, I thank you for your time. I'm, as I said, excited to be here, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Well, Mark, why don't you ask me a question? Yes.
They're running Moneyball on cable television this past week or so, and I really haven't seen the whole movie, but true story about Billy Bean, Oakland Athletics, using stats and some grad student from an Ivy League school. But can you give us your thoughts on that, comment on that?
On the movie or Billy?
On the success that he had.
Well, it was Bill. I have great respect for Billy. Year in and year out, the Oakland A's are an incredibly competitive team. Billy was very instrumental in seeing that there were other numbers in baseball that you could use. Baseball is a very statistically driven sport, and that there were other, for example, we have a philosophy that's very important to us, which is take as many pitches as you can. That's the kind of thing where if you have plate discipline and you take a number of pitches, you'll get more walks, you'll get better pitches. That's the kind of thing that Billy espoused. So I've got a great sense of respect for Billy. The movie wasn't completely accurate, but Brad Pitt's a very entertaining version of Billy. Yeah.
Thank you for being here today. You can perhaps settle some barroom bets, or at least settle some conversations. What is the financial justification in taking relatively older athlete and paying them $44 million or whatever some of these huge contracts are? You as the contrarian to that, at least, excellent article, I think, on Boston Red Sox in the Journal last week. But can you tell us what the mindset is of some of the owners paying this kind of money for an older athlete? Thank you.
Well, I don't, everybody makes mistakes, so I don't want to say that, we are such geniuses. But it's a bit dangerous to go and sign an athlete who's in his 30s and expect that his performance in the next 5 or 6 or 7 years, when he's really in the downturn of his career, will mirror his performance as he's in his early or mid or late 20s. That it's clear that the window where a player performs at his best is between 28 and 31, 32. Now that doesn't mean there aren't great players who are playing well into their 40s, but it's a very risky proposition. And well, I mean, I actually don't know the answer to this, but I'd be interested whether, as good a player as CC Sabathia is, and he was a Brewer for a period of time, whether the Yankees would think that deal makes sense. So I think that for every deal that works with a free agent that you make a long-term deal within his 30s, there's 3 or 4 that don't work. So but I understand the reason for it. I mean, you look, Albert Pujols is one of the greatest players to play baseball of our time, but I doubt that that deal will make sense, and he's already showing that he's got some injury issues. So it's a definite risk. I understand the reason, because it's one way to improve your club in the short term, but there's obviously long-term consequences.
Do you think that, in your opinion, would soccer be a better game in the United States if there was higher scoring?
I tried to change a few things when we came into soccer. I made some suggestions that people threw me out of the room because the game is 100 years old. Some people would say, why not expand the distance from one end of the goal to the other, because the average goalkeeper is taller, and so it's the same thing in hockey. With all those pads, that it's become less of an offensive scoring game. But I love the game so much that I don't want to get my head beaten by suggesting that that's a good idea. Yes.
I was inspired by your talk about improving the product. And how is the baseball industry in the United States, the conservative side, or they are willing to change quickly as possible? If they are willing to change as possible, how can I contact them with ideas that they can improve their product?
Well, you can email me at twerner@redsox.com.
Well, I did that before, never worked. Email never works.
Well, email me and copy Mark, and then you can talk to Mark. But by the way, I was happy this year because I am always pushing for innovation. I was very happy that Major League Baseball is now going to institute what I consider to be a very good replay, a very good instant replay system, because I feel that the fans see something and they just want to get it right. And I don't know if you know that we made a change this year. So next year, except for balls being called strikes or balls, that there will be a challenge system somewhat similar to the NFL, and I think that's one of the improvements that baseball has made very recently. Yes?
Mr. Werner, do you think you would like to be the next commissioner? If not, who do you think might be?
Well, there's going to be a lot of people. Bud today actually was saying that there's going to be a lot of people who are qualified for that job, some within the industry and some not in the industry. I'm very happy in my position right now, but I think that there will be a lot of good candidates. But let me just say for a minute, I think that this commissioner has been a remarkable leader for baseball for 20-something years, and they're going to have big shoes to fill.
So I know that you're working with LeBron James to create a new show, and with the rise of the likes of Jay-Z and other agents and getting athletes into entertainment, I was wondering if you think that television is going to be the next realm of the retired athlete, of getting professional athletes into TV shows.
Well, the show that I'm working on with LeBron James, he's not actually in the show. He's my partner and a producer. In the end, some athletes can make a transition into other endeavors and some cannot. I think it would be a mistake to assume that one would translate into the other. I am excited about this project because I think that having spent a lot of time with LeBron, I think that this show will be a window into the life of a NBA athlete, and it's got a lot of poignancy, a lot of heart, and a lot of comedy.
Good afternoon. Obviously, you talked about results-driven, revenue-driven that sports is at both the collegiate level and professionally. How do you find a balance between fielding players that provide for those results while also maintaining the integrity of both the brand and the sport in general?
Can you say? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Take, for example, someone like Luis Suarez, someone that, with questionable integrity, but also fulfills the results that one's looking for. How do you kind of make that balance that you're comfortable with a player representing your brand and the sport in general, while also maintaining a certain level of integrity?
Well, I think that athletes are just like the rest of us. There are athletes who are have pure manners, good heart. I don't want to say too much about Louis because I think that in some ways the punishment did not fit what he did. The thing that I think is most important in terms of a brand, though, is you do have to have integrity, but you also need to win. And you have to understand some of these athletes come from really tough circumstances, and I think that one of the great things about sports is that it allows people to sort of move from disadvantaged neighborhoods to become enormously successful financially. And I don't want to put too many you have to do it one way, you have to do it another way. You certainly need to respect the game you're playing. You certainly need to respect your fellow athletes. But, the Yankees, for example, had a thing, and I still think they have it, where they want all their players to be clean-shaven. The Red Sox, if you watch them this year, I think 16 or 17 of our players had beards. I personally don't think it looks great, but as long as they're having fun and winning, I'm not going to put my own sense of what's right and wrong. I think that that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to lead and lead by example. One of the things that we do, for example, with the Red Sox is any player who wants to give to a charity, we give a like amount. So there's 7 or 8 players who have created charities where they give $25,000, $50,000 to the programs they believe in, and we match it. So I just think that's being a good corporate citizen. Yeah.
Well, you just answered my question. I was going to ask where your beard is.
I'll wear it if we win the World Series.
Well, then I'll just make another comment. I wanted to just thank you because your 2004 and 2007 World Series, I think they extended the life, my mother's life. My mother was a lifelong Red Sox fan, and I grew up in Massachusetts and came here to Marquette. And every night in the summertime, these last many years, I would call my mother. I had to call her before the game started. And they were great, great years, and I miss her very much, and I miss our calls before Red Sox games. So thank you so much. I will tell you, though, the only thing she really hated was when you traded Coco Crisp, because he blessed himself at the plate, and he was her favorite player. And that was her only Red Sox clothing. I bought her a Coco Crisp shirt. So,
well, I appreciate the compliment. It was a remarkable experience, and I know that people were planting pennants on their parents' grave in 2004 because their parents hadn't had the opportunity to witness a World Series. So it was one of the most joyful periods of my life, and it's one of the great reasons to own a sporting club, is that there is an emotional connection that people have with their teams. It's not just in Boston. I mean, in Milwaukee, it was so exciting to be here when the Brewers were in the playoffs, and so I live my life in part because I know that emotional connection is there, and I can do what I can to sort of provide some sort of entertainment for people who have tough things going on in their lives. So thank you. So I just want to thank everybody, and thanks for listening to me.
Say we want to, on behalf of Marquette University and the Tometz Family Foundation, we want to thank Tom for being here and for sharing his wisdom. And for that, we have a Baccarat glass Golden Eagle. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you. That ends our event.